for 15 minutes is to give you enough
That's
time?
fine.
Okay.
We've got people.
I just want to see what our time limit is.
Is it okay if I turn these up just a tad?
Sure, let me. Which ones? Do you want all of them up or just?
Can you turn just these up?
These two banks?
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be the second and third slide.
Good sound.
Might just yell at me.
So Anthony, did you buy the, you
Okay,
lease the property, you
that's right.
own the property?
We lease it,
You lease it.
right.
What was here before?
It was a blueprint shop,
Oh,
but I don't know how long they had been closed.
and the Peachtree Playhouse name's been used before. We won't
But
get
they
into
didn't
that.
own
I'm
it.
just-
We own it.
Okay, we won't get into that. I'm just curious.
Huh.
The people, there are a lot of old timers like me.
Right,
who Get confused.
who remember the old one, yeah.
And what's funny is that we were supposed to be, you know where the Puppetry Arts is, we were supposed to be next door to them. And then about,
They couldn't guarantee us about the 17th Street Bridge.
Oh,
So
actually
luckily,
they didn't tell us about
You
it.
okay?
Then when they told us about it, they
these are
couldn't.
my boots. These are
You're
my
fine.
blue suede boots. How's the sound?
Good.
Speak.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
The act-
Testing.
The actor speaks.
Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. That's how I used to speak.
I love your set.
Thanks, it's fun.
Okay, Rob, anytime.
We're with John Gibson and Anthony Morris, the co-writers and producers of this phenomenon in Atlanta, and I guess elsewhere, in New York at least, Veranda and its sequels. Tell us, how did this whole idea get started, John?
Well, it actually started with the minister and his wife. It was in a sketch comedy group that I was with in L.A. And when I moved to Nashville, I decided to kind of put it all in a play. And then when I finished, I put it in a drawer. And after we started seeing each other, I pulled it out and I showed it to him. And he said, "This is great. It's really funny, but it needs editing." And so he kind of.
So what's the story?
Well, it's something that we do together, and it's something we enjoy doing together. And
No, I mean, what is the story?
oh, the story of,
Yeah.
the play. Well, Veranda, too, the mother it's a Southern Baptist family, and she's running for Christian of the Year, and they are a huge Republican family, so she's also throwing the largest Republican gay wedding in the state of Georgia, and her minister's wife is adopting a child through Sally Struthers. Her daughter brings home a homeless man to live with them. Her mother-in-law arrives, and so there's just a lot going on, and she's just trying to hold it all together.
So this idea goes back to 1995,
Right.
and what was that inspiration?
A lot of wine.
yeah,
I've been there. We've been there.
We were in Montreal, and
But
there
you're
was a
an
lot
attorney.
of wine.
What was
Right.
your relationship with all this?
we wrote a lot of personal things into all of this.
So this was sort of a cohabitation kind of thing?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm sorry
And
to use that term.
especially as the plays developed, as we got to 2 and 3, a lot of the people were based upon people we knew in our childhood, people we know today, and just imagination.
So this is an 80-seat theater on Peachtree in Midtown, 898 Peachtree.
Yes.
How did
878.
you find this?
878, that's
I'm
right.
sorry, 878
Yeah.
Peachtree. You got it. Thank you. How did you find this space? You were at the 14th Street Playhouse originally.
Right, we produced for a few years out of there, decided to open our own theater, planned to go into a place on Spring Street, but the 17th Street Bridge took care of that.
And we moved into this place within 24 hours because we had already sold tickets, and we had to be in a place in 2 weeks. We saw this place, we went over and we said, "Where's the contract?" We signed, we moved in, and we opened.
Okay, quick personal question. Where do you two come from, and why Atlanta for you two?
I grew up in Memphis. If you've ever been to Memphis, it's not Atlanta.
Been there.
Yeah. And when I reached around 18, I brought a friend down here who was the daughter-in-law of the Haberdys, the furniture people.
Right.
And people were jogging down Peachtree Street. It was in June.
So love of Atlanta?
Yeah, I just thought it was a great place, and later that year, I moved here. And I figured it was close enough I could drive home.
So quickly again, give us the generational portrayal of the plays. Veranda 1, and then where does it go?
Veranda 1 is about the son coming out to his family, basically, and then Veranda 2 is about their wedding. And then Veranda 3 is a continuation of the characters that you meet in 1 and 2, and then there's actually going to be a Veranda 4 this year, the end of the year, which takes you back to 1980, and you kind of see how everything all started. So.
And instead of 4, it's F-O-R-E. So.
And the limousine ride, how did that come about?
Well, actually, this is kind of sad. We were watching the Nixon funeral, and on television, and Rosalind Carter and Jimmy Carter were there sitting next to the Reagans, and none of them would look at each other. And we kind of said to each other, I wonder what they say to each other, when the cameras aren't on. And then that's how it came about. And we said, wouldn't it be funny if they were in the back of a car and you could eavesdrop?
So what are the funny things they say in the course of it? Like what?
Well, it takes you back in time to critical moments. You see when Nancy Reagan meets Jane Wyman for the first time, and which is great. And Betty Ford kind of explaining to Rosalind Carter when Rosalind comes to the White House for the first time, and Betty Ford is telling her how it is. She's a little drunk, and then Barbara Bush is having an affair with J. Edgar Hoover, and their love child is named after them. Gosh, I can't think. J. Edgar Barber, Jeb for short. And then Hillary takes it all through the scandals of the White House, and then she finally has a confrontation with Mary Todd Lincoln because Eleanor Roosevelt couldn't make it because of Lilith Fair. And so it's really, and it just caught on. People loved it, and it ran for the longest time in Atlanta last year, the longest running show in Atlanta.
I read
for
that.
6 months to sold out houses. So it was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of really dedicated actors that.
You beat the mousetrap.
Hey, that's all. I love the mousetrap.
Okay, other than Veranda 4, you have some other exciting things coming up in the spring and the fall.
Our next show is Peachtree Battle, and it is our story of a Buckhead blue blood matriarch named Trudy Haversham, whose husband has announced that he's going to divorce her in the midst of her hosting the wedding for her youngest son, who's marrying a Hooters girl.
Unbeknownst to her.
Right. So it's a whole comedy of errors and a lot of plot twist about divorce and marriage and commitment.
In the straight world.
It's a very funny story.
So what are the gay elements of Veranda 2, since we're here tonight? And forgive me, I've not seen the play.
Well, all of our shows always have a gay character in them. And with this one, he's actually the straight man for the whole family. You kind of watch it and you think, oh my gosh, he's the normal one. And not that gay people aren't normal. But it's,
some are.
Yeah, some are. Yeah, my first husband. Anyways, but it's just, I don't even remember the question. I'm sorry.
We always portray gay people in a positive light.
That's what OutTV Atlanta is about, too, by the way.
Yeah.
A stable light. And
Well,
what he means by the normal one, he's the sort of the center of everything, the only one that keeps his head throughout the whole thing.
He's really kind of based on our life as we know it.
Neat.
Yeah, as far as
I'm the normal one.
Yes,
Yeah.
have a mortgage, have a job, and just kind of, and just not the stereotype. We have enough stereotypes in the show that he doesn't need to be.
So you're an attorney and you're with I don't know the firm. I've heard there's a big firm, but it
Right.
doesn't matter. But you've done representation of the U.S. Speaker of the House, and,
Right.
and the old one, Newt Gingrich,
And the old one.
and the what are some of the others?
Mary Bono. I've
yes.
represented John and Patsy Ramsey.
Oh, the Ramseys.
Yeah. So some high-profile people.
So what's the future of this theater? Where is it going to go finally?
Well, actually, hopefully there'll be something going on here within the next year every night. We've already brought in a children's show for this area that's going to be on Saturdays. A gentleman, Mr. Tone, who was a Ringling Brothers clown,
Oh, yeah.
and it's a wonderful children's show for children 2 to 12. And then Thursday through Sundays will be original works, and then Tuesdays and Wednesday nights we're looking to showcase individual talents, whether it be singing or instrumental or dance. And so there should be something going on here, and we're
That's
also
great.
looking to start an improv group.
And we have a whole slate of shows scheduled. Following Peachtree Battle, we're going to do A Place at the Table. It's about a...
Is this the 50-year-old
Right.
man?
Yes.
Oh,
Who,
but his AIDS friends are dead, and
Right, he gets a birthday wish. He's all alone on his birthday, and he makes a wish, blows out the candle, and his wish is that his friends, who
back.
all died, are back for dinner.
wow.
As they would be if the epidemic never happened.
And then he
so-
gets a second wish at the end of the first act, where we learn that one of them gets to stay. So it's like a search of the contribution we make in our lifetime and who's the most deserving to stick around.
So you said you play off of one another as associates professionally and also as buddies, or whatever your term you use these days.
Yeah, my name's on everything. So we are partners.
But it seems a little, an attorney and an actor are not necessarily writers. I mean, I'm as a journalist, so writing's sort of my stuff. So how did the writing thing come about?
Well, he's actually written some books. They were legal books. And so he's not unfamiliar with the writing style, I guess. But
And I'm a litigator, so
yeah, right.
I do a lot of briefs, and that's writing fiction based upon fact.
But I think, and I think growing up gay, I guess, you also, as a defense mechanism, you kind of create things in your mind, situations and things that are having to deal with it, and I think you come up with a very creative imagination.
So what is the cult and who is the audience tonight?
The audience tonight is actually, we're very proud to say, it's extremely mixed. We have quite a number of people from Alpharetta and beyond. We have season ticket holders from 6 different states, and not just like 1 or 2. It's very large, and but it's a very mixed audience between gay men and women and the Alliance crowd. So which are 50 and above straight married couples, and so it's really been, but it's something that, and we don't do a lot of advertising, so it's all word of mouth, and that's been something that it's been really nice.
So who are the 2 cute boys in the ad?
Well,
one is
it's all
gay,
about
one is
marketing.
straight.
I'm not stupid.
Well, everybody saw the ad.
Yeah.
And they're 2 very talented actors who also have a very good sense of humor, and we appreciated that. But hey, if you're going to cast someone, you want them nice to look at.
You got my attention. Well, with John Gibson and Anthony Morris at the Peachtree Playhouse, I'm Rob Martin, and good luck. Oh, tell us about you run through the 31st of March.
Right now,
and what are your hours and nights and stuff?
Thursday through Saturday at 8, Sunday at 7. Just call the Playhouse at 404-875-1193.
We'll put that up on
Oh, okay.
Good.
And
What's the number again? One more time.
875-1193.
Okay.
And it's Sundays at 7.
And what's the parking like around here? Is it okay?
There's free parking across the street, and there's also paid lots and street parking. Actually, they've done a wonderful job renovating this area, so there's a lot of new restaurants and bars and coffee shops. And
We got in just in time. We
Yeah.
couldn't afford it now.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank
and John and Anthony, I'm Rob
Thanks.
Martin, Out TV Atlanta.
credits and whatnot to get certified in Georgia to teach, and needed a job in the meantime. Needed to do something, so I kind of
And
wandered into the police work
Your
realm.
first job was down in Clayton County?
Clayton County, yeah, and that's where I went through police academy.
And then you went to Emory.
Emory shortly thereafter to go back to school specifically is why I
So you
transferred.
worked there and then were at school at the same. You did your master's while you were working at Emory?
I started it, and I actually finished it up in 97, 98, 98. Yeah, it was 97 actually. While I was over at Georgia Perimeter. I had already transferred to a new job by the time.
So did you go then into the top job there at Georgia Perimeter?
Yeah, I took over there as the director. They call it the Director of Protective Services, but it's
I
the
saw
Chief
that
of
title.
Police.
Right.
That's their internal designation for the
And
department.
there are 5 campuses?
Yeah.
How big a force is that? in terms of your
I've got
staff?
approximately 75 or 80 folks that work for me, and that's spread out.
Well, one question I wanted to sort of ask you, and you can sort of dodge it if you like. What's sort of the difference between policing on a campus and policing a community at large? Is there much really significant difference in the duties, responsibilities?
Responsibilities are the same. The duties may play out differently. I mean, you obviously have different crimes that are occurring on a campus. Now, keep in mind, I mean, one distinction that I do need to specifically point out is that the duties of the sheriff are not road patrol.
Right.
The duties of the sheriff are specifically for the jail operations,
Right.
court security,
right.
and warrant services. The police department,
The
the
DeKalb
Department of
County-
Public Safety Police Department
They do the roads.
handles the road,
And
the more traditional aspect of police work. So
burglaries and all that.
certainly the position that I'm, this particular election is not going to require me to handle the
Okay.
same types of police duties.
Well, let's explore that a little bit. I think people need to sort of know what
Yeah.
those duties
I
are.
think that's
because I think
a
people see
misunderstanding.
the DeKalb County Police and the DeKalb County Sheriff. But we got double
Yeah,
responsibility.
yeah.
They sort of see that.
Yeah, that's certainly understandable with you have cars on the road from both agencies trying to figure out, well, who's actually responding to my calls when I dial 911 and things like that.
You want to use your age?
37?
37. You don't mind? That's good
No,
because people
not
will be
at all.
asking that question. Obviously, how old is she? Well, 14. That's pretty good. You've got a lot of experience.
Started in '87 in Clayton County, and all of it. I mean, all of Emory's experience, and certainly all of Georgia Perimeter College has been in DeKalb County. So, I mean, my law enforcement experience is specifically in the county.
Now,
I'm not working for the county.
have you always served openly gay in law enforcement? You have.
It's never been an issue. I mean, I've not ever been in a position to anybody to ask specifically. Although it's
Are
not
you
any.
shooting?
It's
We'd
not.
like to start this again then.
Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. I didn't bother. Does it sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Looks good.
Well, we're with. Let's start again. Let me get my thoughts here a moment.
Okay.
Okay. We're here in Pine Lake with Juliet. We're here in Pine Lake with Juliet de la Cruz, who's a neighbor of this community and a resident, and also a candidate for the sheriff of DeKalb County. Now, I find this very interesting. Now, you're 37 years old, but you got 14 years in law enforcement. Some very good years from what I read in your resume. But this is going to be sort of a heated contest, and it's coming out of a very sad background.
Absolutely.
Tell us why you stepped into this.
Well, all of my law enforcement experience has been in the DeKalb County area. Certainly 6.5, almost 7 years at Emory University Police Department, and then coming over to Georgia Perimeter College Police Department as the Chief of Police. I have operated on a daily basis dealing with the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department. Every individual that's ever been arrested within my law enforcement career practically has gone to the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department to be lodged. So I've had day in and day in experience with dealing with what's going on over there, and I have been sorely disappointed with certainly the management, the lack of coordination, even on the ground level services. When the position became open, I was fully prepared to let Derwin Brown do what he had planned on doing, and I really felt like he was
You
a good
supported
candidate.
him.
I supported him, and I felt like he was enough of an outside influence with the experience behind him to make changes in the jail, and I was real comfortable with that. When the tragic incident of his death occurred, I waited with anticipation to see who would come forward and be able to then pick up where that had happened and continue on with what needed to be done there, which was have somebody from the outside objectively come in and make changes. When I started seeing some of the candidates that came forward, I was just not comfortable with who was presenting themselves as qualified to do that job, and that's what prompted me to step forward.
Now, you've been Director of Protective Services at Georgia Perimeter College since 1995. What are those responsibilities versus what you might be coming into as sheriff?
Well, certainly Director of Protective Services is what it's referred to internally at the college. It's the chief of police position, and that's all the traditional duties that you would have for a police department, taking care of crime on campus, albeit it's very low, incident response, investigations, and dealing with the day in, day out daily operations of a police department. Within DeKalb County, there's a police department and there's a sheriff department. The sheriff's department's duties are primarily to preserve the security and the integrity of the jail operations, do the warrant services, which is serving warrants, civil and criminal warrants, and out in the public, and court services, protecting the jury, making sure that all the court operations go smoothly and securely. So there's a very specific, distinct separation between the road patrol, as we know it, which is handled by the police department,
Right.
and the jail operations, which is very different.
Now, should you become sheriff, you'd become the first openly gay law enforcement officer in Georgia. Is that true?
I've been told.
You've
I've
been
told, yes.
Well, what is the significance to the gay community then, from your viewpoint?
Well, I think it's important, certainly as a public official for other gays and lesbians, to see that what they may imagine as being preemptive of them actually being a public figure, which is their sexuality, is not an issue. In this particular race, I know I've had the question asked of me, do you think that's going to be an issue for your candidacy? And I really don't think so, because the overriding factor that the DeKalb County voters want to know is who is qualified and who is experienced in law enforcement to take over that position and do what needs to be done in that jail, in that agency. There's some real hard decisions that are going to be facing me when I get in there, and really I need to make difficult decisions, but they have nothing to do with issues of sexuality. They're issues of qualifications, they're issues of management style, they're issues of the ability to make changes. But I think it's very important for the gay and lesbian community to see people in positions, public policy positions, public elected official positions, all of those public positions that have taken the steps to go forward and say, this is not going to prohibit me from running for office. Certainly if you're qualified and you have the experience, then you should be the person in that position.
Right. Well, just as an aside, we're here in this beautiful city of Pine Lake, and we've done stories out here before, and of course Mayor Al Fowler happens to be openly gay.
Yes.
And it's a very diverse community, and it's just interesting that you're part of it.
Yeah, and I have to say, upon reflection about my decision to run, I really feel like my involvement in the community and what I've seen Mayor Fowler do over the last 2 years with the community, rebuilding the community's trust, rebuilding the trust of Pine Lake with the rest of the greater DeKalb community, I really feel like that had a significant impact on my decision to run. I saw Mayor Fowler take over a really embattled community that was really looked at with scrutiny and with distrust by the greater DeKalb community, and he methodically went through step-by-step rebuilding those relationships. And I really feel like there is some amount of similarities with the Sheriff's Department right now. The greater DeKalb community does not trust that the Sheriff's Department operates with integrity, with accountability, with fairness. Right. And that's really the similar situation that Pine Lake was looking at. Mayor Fowler went through and changed those things, and we're really enjoying a good, healthy relationship with the rest of the community. And I feel like that's something that I'd like to do for the Sheriff's Department as well.
Well, let's talk for a minute about this background of all this. Derwin Brown is assassinated just before Christmas, and his predecessor, Mr. Dorsey, he's coming out of somewhat, well, we've got a grand jury looking into some corruption in the system. How do you think the other candidates compare with you to sort of step into this, what apparently is sort of a mess at the moment anyhow, to sort of clean it up?
Well, certainly, when I look at the other candidates, they all have enthusiasm and they have the greater good of DeKalb County in mind. But what I look at is who is in a position with qualifications and experience to actually see those desires come to fruition. I certainly feel like I'm the most qualified candidate when it comes to a background, a mixed background of police experience, along with the education necessary to see those things happen. Really, the race is between Thomas Brown and me. He's the interim sheriff right now, but he's not a police officer.
He was a fire chief.
He was a fire chief originally, and then he was put in the position of public safety director. He does not have the day-to-day law enforcement experience that I think is really necessary and critical to a position like this. Also, I believe that my educational pursuits, a master's degree in public administration, is going to be something that really comes in and is a critical component of a manager. In this day and age in law enforcement, you have got to somebody who has both the law enforcement experience and the management experience combined, and I don't believe there are any other candidates who have a master's degree in public administration
That's
like
neat. Now, for the gay community, you spent 2 years as co-chair for the Pride Committee.
that. And many years on the board.
And then
actually,
many years before that,
yeah.
and you've also been with Georgia Equality on a number of things?
Yeah, I've worked with them closely on a couple of their initiatives as well.
Are you looking for their endorsement?
Absolutely, absolutely. They've been very supportive. I know Harry Knox is an upstanding member of our gay and lesbian community.
He really is.
And he wants the best for the community, and I think that's something that I really admire about Georgia Equality Project. I think they're actually Georgia Equality Incorporated now. So,
Is there anything personal that you'd like to say to the gay community about you that we didn't bring out here? Just as sort of a sentiment about who you are?
well,
I think it's
you
pretty
covered.
clear.
I think you covered a lot of what I do, and certainly I would hope that the gay and lesbian community knows that I'm not a newcomer to activism. I'm not a newcomer to stepping forward and being public. I'm absolutely positive that the gay and lesbian vote, the gay, lesbian, transgendered vote, and bisexual vote is going to be critical in this race. We are looking at an issue of Thomas Brown having name recognition, but not necessarily being the best person for this job. I know that the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community is going to make a difference whether I win this election or not. And it's really critical that they come out. I mean, the election is March 20th. It's very, very soon. And it's incumbent on our community to take the initiative to make sure and remember to come out and vote and be there. And that's really going to make a difference
Well,
for
we
me.
saw what happened in November.
Yeah, and we'd like not to have that happen again, certainly. So I think it's really important. I definitely know that the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community is going to make a complete difference to my campaign.
Well, we wish you the best, and
Thank you.
we'll talk to you again, we hope,
Okay.
when you're sheriff.
Absolutely.
And,
I'd love for you to be there.
We're with Juliet Cruz, who's candidate for DeKalb County Sheriff, along with 7 other contenders. And thank you again, and this is Rob Martin for Pine Lake for OutTV Atlanta. Thanks.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
I knew news guys that used to do that.
Oh, they must, because I've seen him out. This is Joe Smith reporting from Hurricane Andrew,
Right.
and their
Their
hair
hair isn't
hasn't
moved.
even moved, and I'm wondering how is that possible? Either they're
Exactly.
superimposed behind the hurricane that is blowing behind them, or they have Devo hair. One of the two.
Well, this is a great little city.
Okay, Rob, let's see.
What do you got?
All right.
What do you need?
Let's do it. Go ahead.
What do you want?
Uh,
Just talk?
Intro.
Start from the beginning? What do you want?
Just, we're here with,
Okay.
Dog, incoming dog.
okay.
Well, we're here in Pine Lake with Juliet Cruz, who's a candidate for DeKalb County Sheriff, and thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Why are you running?
Well, I feel very strongly that there are no other candidates that really have the experience and the qualifications to take on this job at this time in the history of the Sheriff's Department. Certainly there's a lot of enthusiasm and there's a lot of desire to see the best for DeKalb County on the part of some of the other candidates. But you really need to have a combined law enforcement experience and public administration and policy education in order to take on some of the challenges of this particular election. And I feel like I have that.
Well, we've been with, is that it?
That's it. Okay, now, if you'll do an exit for me, then I'm gonna pan back out this way.
Just
tell her thanks and appreciate being here.
Okay. That's what I was about to do when you interrupted me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to do the closing. Is that what you wanted me to do?
Please.
Okay. Well, you're running? Well, best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you.
And we wish you well, and keep us up to date on what's happening.
Absolutely.
We've been with Juliet Cruz, who's a candidate for DeKalb County Sheriff, and she's with 7 other contenders for the March 20th race. And this is Rob Martin for OutTV Atlanta from Pine Lake.
Perfect.
Okay. This is the voiceover for the Juliet de la Cruz, candidate DeKalb County Sheriff. Be sure that Juliet de la Cruz is spelled correctly. I spelled it out on the front of this sheet. It's also on the blackboard inside the editing room. This is the voiceover that covers just getting into the piece. Use some of the video that comes just before this of the Destination DeKalb sign over the MARTA station, the DeKalb County Courthouse downtown, and then the pictures of the DeKalb jail. There are some very bad shots near the end, but the very end shots, the pans are good, and the close-ups of the signs. So that's it. Here's voiceover, Juliet de la Cruz, take one. DeKalb is one of Georgia's largest, fastest-growing, and racially and socially diverse counties. DeKalb's current sheriff's race is a hotly contested politically This is take two, DeKalb County Sheriffs. DeKalb is one of Georgia's largest, fastest-growing, and racially and socially diverse counties. DeKalb's current sheriff's race is a hotly contested politically Three. DeKalb is one of Georgia's largest, fastest-growing, and racially and socially diverse communities. Nope. Oh, this is take four. DeKalb County is one of Georgia's largest, fastest-growing, and racially and socially diverse communities. DeKalb's current sheriff's race is a hotly contested political campaign with 6 men and 2 women in the heat. Last December 15th, 2 days before his swearing in as sheriff-elect, sheriff's race take 5. DeKalb County is one of Georgia's largest, fastest-growing, and racially and socially diverse communities. DeKalb's current sheriff's race is a hotly contested political campaign with 6 men and 2 women in the heat. Last December 15th, 2 days before his swearing in, Sheriff-elect Derwin Brown was gunned down in his driveway. Now openly gay 37-year-old Juliet de la Cruz, with 14 years in law enforcement, has stepped into the flail with 7 other contenders. That's a take.